Ever feel like your workplace could use, I don't know, maybe a little jolt? Something to kind of shake things up a bit.
A little energy boost.
Exactly. And maybe bring in a little more laughter, a little more connection. And get this, the answer might just be in weirdness.
Okay, I'm intrigued, but you're going to have to explain this one.
Well, today we're diving into a book that says just that. The Art of Weirdness by Christine Michaelis.
The Art of Weirdness. I've got to admit, that's not your typical workplace improvement book.
Definitely not. And that's what makes it so interesting. It's not about, being more efficient or climbing the corporate ladder. It's about bringing more fun and authenticity into the workplace.
Okay, so we're not talking about showing up in a clown costume then. What exactly does Christine mean by weirdness?
That's a great question. And it's not about being inappropriate or unprofessional. It's more about small, intentional things you can do to break up the monotony and bring a little joy into the office.
So more like those we're all human moments that make people laugh and connect.
Exactly. Christine argues that these moments can actually be really powerful in building camaraderie and a sense of belonging within a team.
That's interesting. It makes sense when you think about it.
Right. Like, when was the last time a good laugh with your colleagues didn't make the day a little bit better?
I can't argue with that, but is there any, I don't know, any science to back this up?
There is. Laughter actually has a physiological effect on our bodies. It triggers the release of endorphins, which have mood-boosting and stress-reducing benefits.
So the shared chuckles are actually doing us good. I like it. But how do we actually put this weirdness into practice? Christine must have some suggestions.
Oh, she does. She actually uses a 1 to 5 scale throughout the book to rate the level of weirdness of each tactic.
A weirdness scale. Okay, now I'm really curious. What would a level 5 be?
We'll get there.
Yeah.
But let's start with something a little more approachable for now.
Okay, sounds good. What's a good entry-level weirdness tactic?
One that Christine recommends, even at level 2, is called Face on a Stick.
Face on a stick. That sounds interesting. What is that?
It's pretty much what it sounds like. You take a picture.
Wait, like a printed out picture?
Yeah, you print it out, and then,
Of what, though?
well, it could be anyone. Christine suggests a favorite celebrity or a cartoon character, maybe even a historical figure, whatever you think would get a laugh.
So you're telling me I should bring a photo of, like, Abraham Lincoln to my next meeting?
Hey, if that's what makes you laugh, go for it. The point is to inject a dose of humor and unexpectedness into a typically mundane situation.
I see. So it's that element of surprise that makes it funny.
Exactly. And Christine says this tactic can actually lead to more enjoyable and productive meetings.
I'm not sure about that. I mean, wouldn't people think it's unprofessional?
It's definitely a judgment call. And that's why Christine emphasizes the importance of being mindful of your workplace culture.
That's a good point. What might fly in one office might be totally inappropriate in another.
Exactly. And it's also about being aware of the individuals you work with. You don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable.
Right. So it's about being intentional and thoughtful with our weirdness, not just throwing it around haphazardly.
Exactly. And speaking of intentional, Christine has some great tactics for injecting a little weirdness into your everyday conversations too. Like what does she suggest for those of us who maybe aren't ready for visual gags?
One tactic she calls fact of the day.
Fact of the day.
Okay.
Tell me more.
So you find a fact, but not just any fact. It's got to be something unusual or funny or just kind of mind-boggling.
So like weird trivia.
Exactly. And then you share it with your colleagues.
Okay, I can see how that could lead to some interesting conversations.
Exactly. It's a way to break the ice and get people talking about something other than work.
And maybe learn something new in the process.
Right. You never know what kind of weird and wonderful facts are out there.
So we've covered visual humor with a face on a stick, and now verbal humor with fact of the day. What about those of us who are more, action-oriented? Any suggestions for us?
Christine's got you covered. One of her tactics is called random acts of office kindness.
Oh, I like the sound of that. Tell me everything.
It's pretty simple, really. You just do something nice for a colleague, but unexpectedly.
Okay, give me some examples. What kind of things are we talking about?
It could be anything from leaving a funny sticky note on someone's computer to bringing in donuts for the team.
So just those little gestures that show you care.
Exactly. It's about brightening someone's day and creating a more positive work environment.
I love that. Okay, but I've got to ask, and maybe this is me jumping ahead. Christine takes this weirdness to a whole other level with something she calls invent new personalities.
Yeah, she does. This one's definitely on the more, out there end of the spectrum.
Okay, you can't just leave me hanging like that. We have to talk about The broccoli lawyer?
Olivia Brock, right.
Yes. Olivier Brock, tell me everything.
So Christine, she actually created this whole persona, a small green broccoli with googly eyes, dressed in a tiny suit, who also happens to be a lawyer.
Okay, but wait, hold on. This was an actual physical broccoli, like from the grocery store.
Yep. She even had a colleague make him a tiny suit.
I'm sorry, I have to laugh. A tiny suit. That's incredible.
Right, and they would take photos of him around the office like he was part of the team.
Oh, I bet that led to some interesting conversations.
It did. People would come into her office and they'd be like, "Who's that little guy?"
And what would she say? Oh, that's just Olivier, my broccoli lawyer.
Pretty much. She even gave him a backstory and everything.
I love it. But I do have to ask, was there ever a point where it became too much? Like, did people start to question her sanity?
You know, that's the thing about humor. It's so subjective. What one person finds hilarious, another person might find totally bizarre.
That's true. So how did her colleagues react?
Most of them seem to think it was pretty funny. It became a bit of a running joke in the office.
I can see that. It's like a shared experience that brings people together.
Yeah.
But I'm sensing there's more to it than just, making people laugh.
You're right. Christine talks about how these weird acts, they can actually be a way of expressing our creativity and individuality, even in a corporate setting.
So it's about bringing more of ourselves to work. I like that.
Exactly. And when we feel comfortable being ourselves, we're more likely to be engaged and productive.
That makes sense. But we've only scratched the surface of Christine's weird wisdom. She has so many other interesting and unconventional tactics in her book.
She does. Did you know she's a big believer in the power of music in the workplace?
Music. Okay, I'm so here for this. Tell me she suggests we all have impromptu dance parties in the break room.
Not quite. But she does talk about using music and even songwriting as a way to spark creativity and inject some fun into the workday.
Songwriting. In the office. Okay, you're going to have to elaborate on that one.
So remember the fact of the day tactic. Christine suggests taking those weird and wonderful facts and turning them into songs.
Wait, really? Like writing actual songs with lyrics and melodies and everything?
Exactly. She says it's not about being the next Mozart or anything. It's more about tapping into that playful creativity we all have inside of us.
Okay, but I'm still stuck on the idea of turning a weird fact into a song. Can you give me an example? How does that even work?
She gives an example in the book about pigeons. Apparently, pigeons can recognize human faces.
Okay, that is pretty weird. I never knew that about pigeons.
Right. So she used that fact as inspiration for a song about pigeons being secret agents watching us, blending into the background.
Secret agent pigeons. I love it. See, this is why I love this book. It's so unexpected and fun.
Right. And she even came up with a catchy chorus and everything. It's about not taking ourselves too seriously and finding ways to make work more enjoyable.
I'm starting to think Christine needs to quit her day job and become a children's book author. Or maybe a songwriter for a quirky animated movie.
Maybe she's got a secret double life we don't know about. But seriously, she makes a good point about the power of music.
Oh, absolutely. There's something about music that can instantly shift your mood or spark a new idea.
Exactly. And it doesn't even have to be this big, elaborate thing. Christine also talks about the power of just humming a tune while you work or putting on a playlist that makes you feel happy and energized.
So I'm a big believer in the power of a good playlist. Sometimes the right song can totally turn my whole day around.
Right. And she has a name for this tactic, too. She calls it sing, even if you can't.
Sing even if you can't. I love it. It's like giving yourself permission to embrace that inner child, even at work.
Exactly. And speaking of embracing your inner child, Christine also has some fun ideas for adding a little personality to your everyday work tools.
Okay, like what? I'm all about personalizing my workspace. It's amazing how a few small touches can really make a difference.
Well, she has this whole thing about pens. She calls them weird pens.
Weird pens. I like where this is going.
She's talking about novelty pens, colorful pens, pens with feathers or googly eyes on them, anything that makes you smile when you pick it up.
Oh, I am so on board with this. I have a whole collection of quirky pens at home. There's just something so delightful about using a pen that's a little bit different.
Christine says it's a simple way to inject a little bit of your personality into your work environment. And you never know, it might just brighten someone else's day, too.
It's those little things, those little sparks of joy and connection that can make a big difference in a workplace.
Absolutely. And that's really what this whole book is about, isn't it? Finding those small, intentional ways to bring more laughter, creativity, and authenticity into our work lives.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So to wrap things up, I think we can all agree that Christine Michaelis is onto something with this whole art of weirdness thing.
Definitely. It's a good reminder that work doesn't always have to be so serious. It's okay to be ourselves, to have fun, and to embrace our inner weirdo every now and then.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave you with this. What one small, weird act of kindness could you do today to brighten someone's day? Go forth and be weird, everyone.